The night was quiet in the towering glass building that housed one of the world's biggest tech companies. The bright screens in busy offices that usually buzzed with energy had gone dark, leaving only the soft hum of cleaning machines echoing down the hallways. Daniel, a middle-aged janitor with tired eyes but a gentle smile, pushed his mop slowly across the polished floor. To most, he was invisible, just another worker in the background. But behind his worn uniform was a man carrying a story few knew. Once, Daniel had dreamed of being an engineer. He had the mind for solving problems and the heart for creating things that could change lives. Life, however, had dealt him a cruel hand. After his wife's passing, he was left to raise his little daughter alone. Bills piled up, and survival took priority over ambition. The only job he could get was as a janitor, and though it wasn't what he once imagined, he accepted it with humility, grateful it put food on the table. Each night as he worked, he thought about his daughter sleeping peacefully at home, waiting for him to return. His hands might have been rough from scrubbing floors, but his mind never stopped turning, never stopped thinking of solutions to problems he no longer had the chance to solve. To everyone else, Daniel was just the man with the mop, but beneath the surface, he carried the quiet brilliance of a dreamer who refused to give up. Morning light streamed through the massive windows of the executive boardroom, but the atmosphere inside was anything but bright. A group of the company's top leaders sat around the long table, their faces tense and voices sharp. Charts filled the screens at the front, each one showing numbers dropping lower and lower. A critical system failure had triggered a problem so severe it threatened to cost the company nearly $100 million. Weeks of effort, countless late nights, and endless brainstorming had led to nothing. The best engineers, armed with advanced tools and years of expertise, were stuck. The CEO's voice was heavy with frustration as he reminded everyone how much was at stake: jobs, contracts, even the reputation of the entire company. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, whispering possible fixes that quickly dissolved into silence. Standing quietly in the corner, unnoticed, was Daniel. With his cleaning cart beside him, he wiped down tables and emptied bins, all while listening. His heart ached at the desperation in their voices. He wasn't supposed to be there for anything but his job, yet as the discussion dragged on, something in the technical jargon began to stir old instincts inside him. The diagrams on the whiteboard, the explanations of the glitch, the frantic arguments, it all began to make sense in his mind. Still, he said nothing. He was just the janitor, after all. No one in that room would believe that the man with the mop might see what they had all missed. When the meeting finally ended, the executives filed out one by one, their shoulders heavy with defeat. The room grew quiet again, leaving only the sound of Daniel's mop gliding across the floor. He paused near the whiteboard, staring at the messy equations and diagrams scrawled across it. His eyes lingered on one particular section, a mistake so simple it almost seemed impossible that no one had noticed it. His heart pounded. For a moment, he argued with himself. He was just the janitor, what right did he have to touch their work? But then he thought of his daughter, of the values he tried to teach her: never be afraid to do what's right, even if no one is watching. Slowly, he reached for a marker. His hand trembled as he erased a small line and replaced it with a cleaner, simpler adjustment. To him, it was second nature, the kind of solution his engineering-trained mind had always loved to find. As he stepped back, a young engineer who had returned to grab his laptop stopped in his tracks. He studied the correction with wide eyes, then rushed to test it on his computer. Within moments, the impossible happened: the system responded perfectly. The glitch that had cost the company millions was gone. The room that had been filled with hopelessness just minutes earlier now brimmed with stunned silence. Daniel stood frozen, unsure whether to feel proud or afraid. He had solved their problem in seconds, but what would they say when they found out who had done it? The news spread through the building like wildfire. By the time Daniel returned to his usual duties, whispers followed him down every corridor. The CEO himself called an emergency gathering in the same boardroom, this time with an entirely different energy. Executives, engineers, and staff filled the room, buzzing with disbelief. Daniel was asked to step forward, though his instincts told him to keep to the back. Nervously clutching his cap in his hands, he walked toward the front, unsure if he was in trouble. The CEO, a man known for his stern demeanor, stood waiting. For a long moment, he just looked at Daniel, then slowly extended his hand. "This man," the CEO said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "just solved a $100 million problem in seconds." Gasps and murmurs swept through the room. Daniel shook his head, embarrassed, muttering that it was nothing, that he was just doing what came naturally. But the CEO raised a hand to silence him. "Genius has no uniform," he declared firmly. "Respect every soul who walks these halls. Talent and wisdom can come from anywhere." Then, in front of everyone, he offered Daniel a place on the engineering team, a role worthy of his skill and experience. Tears burned in Daniel's eyes as the room erupted in applause. For the first time in years, he felt seen not as the janitor with a mop, but as the man he truly was. A father, a dreamer, and a problem solver who had finally been recognized. Daniel could hardly believe what was happening as he stood there, his heart pounding beneath his simple uniform. The offer wasn't just a new job, it was a doorway to a life he thought he had lost forever. He pictured his daughter's face, the way her eyes lit up whenever he promised her a better future. Now, that promise no longer felt like a distant dream. The applause still echoed in his ears as he nodded gratefully, unable to find the words to match the moment. For years, he had carried the weight of being overlooked, of hiding his knowledge and skills behind the quiet role of a janitor. But now, his story had become something bigger than himself. Employees who once walked past him without a second glance now looked at him with admiration. The company's culture began to shift, inspired by the reminder that greatness doesn't always wear a suit or sit at a desk. His journey was living proof that kindness, humility, and perseverance could outshine even the darkest struggles. That night, when Daniel returned home, his daughter ran into his arms, sensing his joy before he even spoke a word. With tears in his eyes, he whispered that life was about to change, that their sacrifices had not been in vain. In that moment, Daniel knew his wife would have been proud. From janitor to innovator, his story became a symbol of hope, teaching everyone that the human spirit, when given a chance, can rise higher than anyone expects.